Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. I am your producer extraordinaire, Dan Vadeboncoeur, alongside the long-suffering co-host, Justin Curry. Gregory Kmichuk is not with us today, Justin.
No, he is not.
Where is he?
Gregory is, I don't know how much of this, I don't like when Gregory says, "Oh, there's this thing that I'm working on, but I can't talk about it."
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm gonna,
So
I'm not gonna do that.
About it. No,
but Gregory's involved with a movie project.
Yeah.
That's really exciting, and it's a small movie project. It's like they call it a micro budget movie, which means they have $100,000 to play with. Sounds like a lot of money. But when you're in the movie business, that's really not much money at all.
Yeah.
So they're filming in Ninette, which is a tiny little town in southern Manitoba. And they have this amazing set. It's like an old school hospital or sanatorium, I think they called it, that's basically getting demoed. And so they have a very short window where they can shoot a horror movie in this place before it gets destroyed or updated or something along those lines. So anyways, Gregory and J-Ball have been just racing the clock to get script done and they're pretty involved with this movie project. So all their tasks done in time for everything to line up that they can shoot what they need to shoot before they lose this amazing location for the movie. So Gregory has been kind of running all over the place with that the last little while. So he himself did not cancel this podcast. I think he assumed he was going to be here for it and forgot that he was also driving to Ninette today. And you can't do both.
Not yet, anyway. We have not mastered cloning,
No.
although I'm sure Greg would love that. He would love to be cloned. He'd be the first person to volunteer, I think.
Yeah.
Right? And he could use it as well, obviously. But we're still here.
Yeah.
And it's great to see you. It's the first time I've seen you since the new year. Mm-hmm. And before the new year, you guys had recorded kind of an origin story for Gregory. Mm-hmm. You interviewed him. You talked to him about where he started, how he began his career as an artist, as a working artist. Let's just call it working artist.
Yeah,
that's really what it is. And how he got to start. And so that's a great episode. You can listen to that. It's been posted since last week. And now we're going to talk to you about your origin story.
And how did all that kind of started organically? I didn't plan on getting his origin story, but I think I started grilling him on his schedule and how he organized his life prior to being a full-time artist, like how he balanced the work-life balance.
Yeah. And
right?
that kind of leads into how you transition, because I guess the goal is to transition into the main, to your side gig to become your main gig, right?
Yeah.
Whatever they say.
Yeah.
So that's really how that started. So we started off in his days in the hotel when he led the revolution, whatever he did there, and then progressed from there. So let's go back for you. When did this first? I imagine it first started with a love of drawing as a child, right? That's where it starts with a lot of artists.
Yeah. So I think going back origin story wise, in school. I didn't excel in sports or academics, right? I wasn't great at, I think I did okay in sciences, and I remember doing okay in some LA classes, but just in general, I wasn't the best student. And this was always frustrating because everybody else in my family was an amazing student. So I feel like I was the only one who really struggled. And then sports as well, right? I grew up in a hockey town. I was never a great hockey player, and that always felt like a big misstep on my end. I should be better at hockey. And then baseball too. I hated baseball. But that's what you did. I played baseball and I hated it.
For sure.
And so somewhere along the lines, I noticed when I was really early, it was Lego. And then later on with my drawing, would actually get me some accolades. People would give me compliments on you're good at drawing, you're good at building Lego, you're better at this than most people. And that I think was the only arena where I was excelling over the other people around me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of where it clicked, right? You found this thing that you like doing and you're getting better at it than other people. So I think that's kind of where the brain chemistry, you're getting rewards for doing this thing. So we want to keep doing this thing. So when I try to break it down, that's kind of what I come back to is, if I'd been great at sports or good at math, or I probably would have pursued that, but instead well, no, I'm good at drawing, and people seem to keep telling me I'm good at drawing, so I'm going to keep drawing. And that's where I think it kind of began.
Right. And we've talked about your past Lego creations. You recreated the ship from Event Horizon, right?
Yeah.
That was one of your big creations. And so you would see these things, these movies and TV shows and comic books and the things you were reading, the media you were reading as a child, and recreate that stuff in your work. And so where did that lead into, I guess, the graphic design program? Is that kind of where that went?
Yeah. So when I was in grade 11, the school does this kind of mentorship day. It was like 2 days mentorship where you're supposed to find somebody in the field that you want to get into and go shadow them for a day or two. And like I said, I was not so great at a lot of things, but drawing was what I wanted to do. And nobody seemed to have an idea of like what you could do with that, right? Like working artist wasn't something that we knew about back in the small pilot ground. But my mom reached out to my uncle, who had like a niece on the other side of the family that was in graphic design. And this was, as far as we knew, it was drawing, but you're getting paid for it. It was like a professional version of creativity. And so she reached out through the grapevine. I had never met this person before. Like she was removed enough from my family that I never met her growing up in family reunions or anything like that. But she was in Winnipeg. She was in her third year of graphic design. She was in her mentor program at Guppy Design, which is a great studio in the city. And so we were able to arrange to drive into the city, and I shadowed her in college at the graphic design program. And so I got exposed to, I think the first thing they did was we go into the graphic design room, which is a really cool room. It's just this big open space, computers everywhere. People had drawing tablets and stuff, which was really high tech at the time. Like the early versions of Wacom were like these big clunky things, but they had those. And they were doing a art critique with Ross Sundmark, who's a very interesting individual that I got the privilege of being in some of his art of history classes too. So I got to see all these third-year graphic design students present like a huge poster of the poster they had designed for, I think it was a play or something like that, and then watch as everybody went around and ripped it apart and said what was wrong with it and what they needed to change. And that was the point of it. It was a critique class. So I think they were, they presented kind of what they had come up with, and everybody was supposed to find what was wrong with it, and then they had to do it again. It was something like that. So I remember being like kind of like scared of what was happening. Like, I'd never seen anything like that where usually when you did a piece of art, people just said nice things about it. Nobody ever critiqued it.
Well, in your experience, right?
In my experience.
That point, that's all you had heard. So good. Oh, you're such a talented artist.
Yeah, 15-year-old me didn't know what was going on. But yeah, I was surrounded by like all these people who were tied to their sketchbooks and drawn on the computer. And then after that, I followed the cousin to Guppy Design. And their office, again, was this downtown, huge old building, huge open space. Their coffee tables were upside down surfboards. They had Akira models on like their shelves and like anime toys everywhere. And
can we ask what year is this?
This is 2005.
That's pretty cool. That's like
sorry, 2003.
That's like pre-anime.
Yeah.
Like that. Like I know it was around back then, but it was like not mainstream.
No.
All
like I'd never. Akira was not on my radar. I'd never heard of it, but it was when the Tetsuo's arm starts becoming a big, massive blob. Like it was a huge model of that. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I need to know what that is.
Show us your crooked jaw. Show us your wrinkled brow.
And they sat me down on one of their computers and let me play around with like an early version of Adobe Illustrator for the first time. And I was just like, okay, I found my people. And the next day, the cousin, instead of taking me to graphic design stuff, she took me around to a bunch of fine art galleries in the downtown. So I got to see a bunch of fine art galleries, and this is a very famous local fine artist did like a whole thing with dead bunnies. I got to see that, and that was kind of the linchpin of I don't want to be associated or have anything to do with the fine art scene. None of it clicked. None of it sparked joy.
I totally thought you were going in a different direction with that. I thought you were going to say something else. That's when I knew I wanted to be an artist. When I saw the Dead Bunnies. Oh no, the Dead Bunnies were like, no, that's not for me. I'm more the working artist, not the fine artist kind of thing.
And again, like I never went to like fine art galleries. I didn't get to small town, right? I didn't know what that world looked like, and I got a glimpse there, and I'm like, I don't want anything to do with that.
It's good that you got that scene though. You got to see both of them together, right? So that's awesome.
Yeah, which ties into what happened next with when I got into grade 12 and started applying for colleges. I applied for U of M's fine arts and graphic design. And I really, really wanted graphic design. All my friends were going to U of M, and so part of me thought that might be a good route. But graphic design had really hooked me. But the graphic design program is tricky to get into. It's they accept portfolio submissions, so you get this little kit, and it says you have to design like this many pieces of art and do this and do that. Like it's a workload just to apply.
Yeah.
And I think they accept like 200 applications, and from there they interview 100 kids, and from there 50 get in. And they even offer a portfolio prep course for like you can go during the summer, and they will teach you what they're looking for and what they want. But this was in the city, so I had no opportunity to take this portfolio prep class. Yeah. And so my mom actually helped me out quite a bit. She kind of helped make everything look a little more professional. Like you have to mount all your pieces of art on Mayfair, and you had to make it a lot more presentable. And my plan was originally just, shove all the pieces of paper in an envelope and send it off. But she really helped put the portfolio together in a professional manner. So I give my mom a lot of credit for getting me into that program, because I think her help with that portfolio prep really got me in.
Shout out to Mama Curry.
Shout out to Tracy Curry. Yeah.
There you go. I didn't know her first name. Hi, Tracy.
Yeah. And then I got into graphic design, which was really great. And in my mind, I thought this was going to be a little more illustration based, and the graphic design portion of it kind of it took a while to click. I wasn't the best graphic designer in the beginning. I just wanted to draw. I wanted to draw Spider-Man, and I wanted to.
Yeah. I will say that as somebody who teaches into this program, I teach a communications course, and for more than 10 years now. That's like most of the students who come into it. They all come in wanting to draw.
Yeah.
And it's great if you can find that. It's very difficult though, right? As you learn, it's like a very small portion of the jobs out there are illustration jobs. So when did you kind of buy into the whole graphic design thing and start working
It wasn't
on that?
until like the end of the second year
wow.
where I felt like I wasn't drowning in the workload and it's a very, I think they have this program is 2 years with an optional third. You can take almost the same kind of thing at like U of M over like 5 years with an optional 6 kind of thing. So it's condensed, right? So they throw a lot of things at you, and you need to really learn some time management and really get a work ethic quick, or you're not going to last. And so I think that's what that first year was like. Just like I never had to work that hard in high school, and I'd never wanted anything so badly in high school as well. So now I had like, I wanted to be here. I wanted to do this. I wanted to succeed. It wasn't just to do what I need to do to pass the course. It was, I want to get good at this. So a lot of wonky sleep hours and lost sleep in those first 2 years. Yeah.
Like, but when you're doing this, are you still thinking about, like, now you're thinking in terms of, I'm going to be a graphic designer, I'm going to work as a designer at a firm and do stuff, like the kind of work you're doing in the program is kind of showing you what you want to do? Or are you still thinking of wanting to do illustration as an artist?
I think I don't know if I was thinking that far ahead.
Okay.
I don't know if I wanted to really do a whole lot of graphic design in that first year or two. By the second year, then I was starting to really enjoy logos. I was starting to get into I thought poster design would be really cool.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, and I was also starting to, just from what I was hearing from people in the course, that like illustration wasn't a way to make money, wasn't a way to do things, and I was exposed to people who are way better at illustration than me, like saying these same kind of things, like it's good to know how to draw, but like, you're not going to make money unless you know how to make websites. So we need to learn how to make websites.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of made me focus more on the design and get better at that and get more interested in that, which ultimately really helps your illustration. But yeah, it was a lot of grumblings of like, graphic design, websites, that's where you're going to make money. Illustration.
But were you still drawing for fun?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I was always drawing for fun. And there is like a ton of drawing in the program. Like in the first and second year, there's still a lot of life drawing and drawing projects. In the third year, you're able to bring your drawings more into your projects. But illustration is a huge part of the program. It was just, the more the grumblings about how, like, what you're going to do after the course and how you're going to make your living and how you're going to make money. Illustration was kind of poo-pooed upon. And I think it also comes down to, like, graphic designers don't like fine artists and fine artists don't like graphic. Is that whole, like, rivalry?
Yeah, I guess so. Eh?
So I think there's a little bit of that, too.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're in the program and you go through the program all 3 years. And what I've noticed about this program, and this is true of a lot of Red River College Polytechnic, I always forget that last part, but it's part of the name now.
Okay.
A lot of their programs have a very direct feed into industry. Like pretty much you have a work placement. You'll go for 2 weeks. You work in somewhere. You do it twice or 2 work placements or just one?
There was a couple in second year. There's
Two. I think there's two. Okay.
Yeah.
So you do that, and so you make connections. And where do you go to work after graduation?
Yeah. So in the second year, the first place I went to, I forget the name, but it was a graphic design studio, and they had a little video game studio in the same office. And I had to bus like an hour and a half there, and then an hour and a half back every day. It was like the other end of the city. I was staying in like St. James, and they were like north, like at the end of Main Street. It was,
oh my God.
It was a really rough 2 weeks, but the work was fun. They had me doing flash intros because that used to be a thing. So I really liked flash animation, and this was starting to make me think like video games might be a thing. And in the same studio as this graphic design studio, they had a little video game studio, and there was a concept artist there that was just drawing all day, and he was drawing assets for some kind of medieval fighting game thing they were building. And so that kind of clicked like, oh my God, like video games are a thing in Winnipeg. Like this is something that can maybe happen. So that was kind of, I think, where me being something to do with video games really, like I always wanted to work in video games, but that was my first like exposure that it was a thing in the city.
Yeah, you didn't know it was possible until
I didn't know it was possible. Yeah, but this guy is drawing all day for his living, and he's working in the same office that I am. So that was really, really exciting. And then my next mentorship was with ViewSource Media, which was a tinier design studio. I think there was only 3 of us, like 2 or 3 of us.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so quite small. And I really got along with the guys really well. They were a younger company. They were just, they were hungry. They wanted to, get big clients and do all the things. And so I really enjoyed working with those guys. So in third year, you're asked to kind of do a mentorship with a design firm. And so I ended up working with them again, and then they hired me right out of college. Yeah, they basically, got 3 or 4 weeks of work out of me and realized we worked well together and I know what I'm doing. So it was a no-brainer.
That happens quite often with work placements because it's a perfect audition period.
Exactly.
Like you can just try the person out and see risk-free.
Yeah.
And then, hey, you can sign the dotted line and buy the Justin Curry you always wanted.
Which is the harpooner I'm to sleep with tonight?
Oh, he ain't among them. He's what you might call a dark complexion chap. He'll be along as soon as he finishes selling his head.
Is what?
Selling his head.
And so you get a good industry job and you're working, you're doing the fun things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Are you still looking at like when does the seed of an idea to start selling your work start coming to you?
Okay, yeah. So I think in 2007, 2008, I'm working full-time as a designer. I'm still drawing on the side quite a bit, but it's not really going anywhere. I'm trying to like get comments on my images online.
Where are you posting? Is this
DeviantArt?
Yeah,
this is back in the DeviantArt days.
Okay.
But illustration really wasn't getting me anywhere, doing anything for me. I was always still drawing, but there was no plan with it. There was no route available to me. So it was always just kind of a hobby that I was keeping up. And I was trying to like get better at it on the computer, but again, and I was working with people who, you know, same kind of thing. Like, you can't really make money with illustration. And the one guy I worked with, he's this old curmudgeon-y guy. He's a fun character. But he would always talk to me about, he had like his sister was like a fine artist, and she would make, you know, $15,000 a year, and it's not really much of a career choice. But yeah, so again, it was kind of like illustration was not ever sold to me as a good way to spend my time. And then in 2008, I'd always been curious about Comic-Cons, but I always kind of was scared to go on my own, and I didn't have any friends that were nerdy enough to go with, right? It was kind of they were still kind of underground, and they were not very mainstream at all. I didn't even know how to find out about them. But I found there was one on Pembina, in a hotel, in a basement, and I went by myself, almost like a secret mission. Like, I'm going to go to this little Comic-Con. And
you were living in the city?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So I'm living at the city full time. Yeah, at this point.
Yeah, so you go in.
I go in, and it's very small and dark, and there's a couple people selling artwork, and there's a couple like nerdy. There was probably only like 20 vendors in there. But yeah,
you sure it was a Comic-Con and not another kind of show?
It was very underwhelming.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I'm like, okay, but like this, like people are selling artwork here. Like this is a thing. So I didn't really act on the idea then. But then the following year, C4 like was kind of announced at the convention center for the first time. So this is a big deal. We're like bringing in celebrities. We're taking over the entire convention center. So there was this air of excitement around it. And again, I really wanted to participate, but I didn't really want to do it on my own, and I didn't know anybody else to like go with. And James Gillespie, who we've had on the podcast before, actually reached out to me and said, like, I was interested in maybe tabling there. Would you share a table with me? Because I don't know what I'm doing there either. And so James Gillespie and I had just gotten my very first car. We filled it up with all our little sketches. We just had notebooks, and we had a couple like drawings that were like on their own pieces of paper. No tablecloths, no anything else. We didn't know what we were doing. And we go to the convention center, and driving downtown is still stressful for me at this point. So it's this big adventure downtown. Okay, we have to park underground of this thing, like figuring that out. We finally get there, and then it's like, well, what do we do now? It's this massive complex. I don't know where anything is. And so we see a bunch of other artists carrying boxes over to this little elevator in the corner. So we just follow them over, and there's a lineup for this passenger elevator. And we talk to people in line. And it turns out that you can't walk up to the convention floor. You have to take the elevator up there, right?
Yeah.
And so we're waiting our turn to take the one elevator up
Very
there.
small elevator, by the way. Tiny.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up. So it's finally our turn to get in there. And James and I get in there with about 4 other people. We're all carrying huge boxes of stuff. And the one woman had like her small kid with her. And the elevator goes up and then stops.
Oh, no.
And so for the next 2.5 hours, we sat in the elevator, and I was closest to the phone. So it was my job to keep picking up the phone and seeing where the elevator guy was to save us.
Right.
So the first 2.5 hours, my first convention, was stuck in an elevator, like elbow to elbow with a bunch of other sweaty nerds.
Oh my God, that would be terrifying.
And the poor kid, like I felt really bad for this kid. Like they were doing their best, but they weren't having a good time either. And
No kidding, eh?
So that was the kind of the start to this adventure. But yeah, we got out. The show had started, but again, this is early days. The Friday of like the 2000. I don't even think
I
it
think
was
2009 was the first year. This is the first year there.
2008.
Was it 2008?
Was
you
the first
sure?
year, yeah.
Okay, I thought it was 9.
I don't even think it was 3 days. It might have just been 2 days.
Might have been,
then.
yeah.
But anyways, it wasn't. We didn't miss too much, and
Okay.
we didn't have much to set up. So we just went and plopped our stuff down, and my family came in from the country to come like support.
That's
so
awesome.
like yeah. So they came in the one day, and so there's all these pictures, and my parents are They do video and photography like professionally. So they took lots of pictures and lots of video. And James and I, we were offering commissions so we could do little drawings for you. We had a couple little pieces of paper on the table that you could buy. And I think I had like 1 or 2, maybe 3 prints of actual like digital paintings on the table. And the next 2 days were like the most exciting of my artistic career because people were paying for my drawings and they wanted to like know if I had more, and I sold out of a couple of things. I don't think I sold out of any prints, but I made $200 by the end of the weekend. Wow. And I was over the goddamn moon because...
Like this profit after you paid for your table?
The table, I think, was $40 split.
Okay. That's
so
pretty good.
Yeah. It was cheap tables back then.
Yeah.
So I made a profit. And
nice.
This was the first time I'd like really made money with my artwork. So it became an obsession of, okay, I want to do better next year. So next year... I wanted to get my own table and I wanted to have more prints. People seem to like these digital prints. So that's all I did. That's all I like obsessed about like over the next year was the next October convention.
He now swims the waters of Good Hope, and all the Indian Ocean lies before him. Next month he cruises the Bengal Bay, March, the Sulu Sea, running eastward to the gateway of the Pacific.
I think it started to definitely show in my my graphic design job that suddenly I had something else that I was a little more focused on than my graphic design work, because I started to play around with vector illustration in the vector files of the corporate logos that I was supposed to be making. So I did the bridges, the part of the city that's Bridgewater.
Yeah.
So I did that logo.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's cool. It was all over the place. That was actually
still up there. I see it all the time.
Oh, it's still there.
Yeah,
It's still there. Yeah.
It's on the gate.
Yeah. They printed in metal and
It's
stuff.
spelled Bridgewater wrong though. I don't know why.
It's
there's
a
no
guy's
E.
name.
It's weird. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, whatever.
And the other thing about that, so we'd leveled up a couple levels as a design firm at this point at ViewSource, but we were still, I think, only like 4 guys, and we had landed the Bridgewater contract, which was a really, really big deal because it was a huge branding package and a website and an interactive map and like all these other things. And so we were really, really excited. And so we worked on that for probably like a solid year. And then somebody realized that we weren't supposed to even have a chance they weren't supposed to be getting a private design firm to work on that. That was supposed to go to a government design firm because it's a city. Yeah. So we had to have everything taken away from us halfway through. So we had to supply like all our vector files and all our work files for some government employee to work on. It was kind of like, it got a little serious there for a second. Like, you guys need to like give us all the files right now and forget that you saw them, kind of thing. Yeah.
Well,
somebody got pissed off.
Yeah, but it's not your fault.
No, it wasn't our fault.
You're just doing what you're paid to do. Come on.
Exactly. But somewhere out there in the Bridgewater logo file is also I did a Starscream transformer.
Yeah.
And on a hidden layer in the Bridgewater forest logo is, a Starscream, as was my very first like shattered vector painting where I was trying out this style in vector where it was kind of all these shards of transparency, and I did that so I could work on it at work.
And that's so you could easily like exit out of it and still be in the file, or what?
In Illustrator, it's this massive canvas. Like when you think Photoshop, you kind of choose your canvas size. Like I'm going to work on a 12 by 18 or an 8.5 by 11. In Illustrator, it's just like this endless canvas. Mm-hmm. So you can work on a couple things, and as the last step, you kind of set your page size. Mm-hmm. And so what I would do is over in like a couple scrolls away, I'd have a bunch of artwork, and then you can press Control-0, and that snaps you back to like the main artwork, the main page. And so the main page would be the logo. So I'd work on Starscream over here, and then I hear the boss coming over. I hit Control-0, and it snaps me back to the logo. And there's no changing windows. There's no anything. So that kind of became a bit of a habit of mine. I'd be working on like the Castle Mortgage logo and also be working on an alien queen over on the side. Mm-hmm. So some government employee also has my native files and my Starscream print from 2000.
I would love somebody to look and see if it was still there. I would love if we could find those files and dig them up. See if that stuff is in there.
So yeah, the next year at the Winnipeg Comic Con, I had, instead of like 1 or 2 prints, I had like 5 or 6, and I made, I want to say like $400, maybe $500 kind of thing, like a paycheck's worth of money, and I sold out of a print on like the first day, and it like kind of like catalyzed, like, oh my God, like I can make a paycheck from this. Are there any more of these? So that's when I started looking into going in, like, and I think this is where I met Gregory Komichuk as well, who had a huge booth and had been going to like Calgary for the Horror Con and going all these other shows. So it kind of made me realize, like, maybe Winnipeg isn't the only place where I can make money at these. Like, maybe I can go to these, like, try out these other places. And so the first 2 out-of-town shows that I wanted to try was Calgary and Chicago, because Chicago is only it's quite close.
It's actually pretty, 16-hour drive from here, so it's not too bad.
So I took a flight.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I took a flight.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Flying like a fancy boy.
Yeah, so this is like
It is close. It's like a couple hours. So
Yeah.
Very, very easy to get to.
But the like airports were a little bit different, and customs was a little bit
sure.
different too. So in 2000, this is like 2010-ish kind of thing, I remember like at customs, they're like, why are you going down there? It's like, I'm going to Comic-Con. I'm going to go sell my artwork. And they're like, well, you're not supposed to do that. I'm like, I probably won't make any money. He's like, okay, get out of here, you scamp. And like, then the next year I said the same thing. Like, I'm going to Chicago to sell artwork. And he's like, so can I see your suitcase? And so they opened up my suitcase, and it's just full of posters to sell. And he's like, so you can't be doing this. We're going to let you go, but don't do it again. So that was kind of my first, like, that was my introduction to, like, you're not supposed to go to the States with a whole bunch of merchandise in your bag and tell customs about it. You have to go through the proper channels. So,
or not tell customs about it.
Yeah. So that was like my first flub with that.
Okay, but what were you doing wrong there? Do you have to get licensing or something, or pay fees or what?
So yeah, to do that properly with customs, you need to have a broker come in and assess everything, and then you have to claim how much you made, and it gets pretty complicated. But the state, like the state of like New York or California or whatever, will set you up with, you came to our Comic-Con, tell us what you made, here's what you owe. So you're paying taxes in the city you want to go to. But the problem with customs is there's nothing really in place for going down and working a day or two.
Okay.
You can, like, the closest you can get is a 6-month work permit, right? Which doesn't really work. So
Okay.
it's, yeah.
Anyway.
It's, a whole other podcast. But anyway, so at this point, I did the Winnipeg one. I loved it. I went to Calgary, and I broke $1,000, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm, like, putting all my time and focus into. And around this time at ViewSource Media, they were starting to kind of switch gears a bit, and they were doing less print media, less design. They were getting into more like website hosting and stuff like that, and they were about to move studios. And so the boss called me in and said, yeah, we need to have a bit of a tough conversation here. Like, we're changing things up, and we think we need to let you go. And yeah, and one of the points he brought up is, it seems like, you've found something else that you're focusing on, and I think that's becoming a big focus for you. I think he kind of noticed that I was, taking longer lunch hours to work on my illustration and taking time away from work to, like, sketch and sketchbooks and stuff. Like, I think it was starting to bleed into my...
Sure, not putting as much time and effort into your actual work projects, right?
And by actual work projects, we're talking about the Podorthic annual brochure. So the Foot Doctor brochure, this was something that came up every couple of months, and it was a nightmare. Like, everything I worked on there, like, blew my brain with boringness. So On one hand, it was really devastating because I really did like all the guys. I'm still good friends with all of them. We still like catch up from time to time. But it was pretty devastating to have this happen. And so for the next couple of months, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna buckle down. I'm gonna make new prints. I'm gonna sign up for as many Comic-Cons as I can. And I'm gonna start getting, I'm gonna start reaching out to like comic book publishers and like maybe try to like do this full time. And before any of that could really get rolling, I got hired by Complex Games as a concept artist. So I think I got let go in, I want to say August, and in October I started working at a video game company as a concept artist.
Sleep. That bed is a coffin, and those are winding sheets. I do not sleep, I die.
My unemployment, time to really develop and do things was very, very short-lived. And I got this job in October from the video game company because the art director also did Comic-Con in October and saw my stuff, and we became friends. And so that was like my automatic in. So I jumped basically from one job right to the next.
So that's cool that's what got you the job, was your art. So if you hadn't started going to cons, you wouldn't have gotten that job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting how it all ties together.
Yeah. Cool. So it really worked out. I think like I had finally got unemployment set up, right? Like you pay unemployment, you can get it back. So I'd finally set that up, and I immediately had to shut it down again because I got hired, which is really, really cool. Yeah. But then I'd already signed up for all these shows. So going into the video game company, the interview was like, yes, I'd love to work here. Just so you know, like I've booked like 5 weekends of the year, so I might need a Friday off and a Monday off here and there to do all these conventions. And so that just became kind of part of the work environment at Complex Games, that I was like, I never really took vacation off, but I'd occasionally like have to miss a day or two here or there for conventions. Yeah.
And how long did you go on like that?
So I want to say this is around 2011. So I was with Complex Games for a couple of years, and I was a contract employee. I think we were all contract employees. It was video games it's tough to have like a full staff at a studio.
I bet.
Because when I started, I think there was 11 guys, and then at one point it went up to 60 guys, and then back down to 14. Like it was feast or famine, and there was always like kind of guys would like come and then have to get let go because the project finished up and stuff like that. So it was kind of a like a little bit of an unstable environment. But it was cool because I got to work with Jonas Van Niekerk of Raging Ape, was my art director, and he was also kind of on the same path as I was, noticing that like Comic-Cons can be a good source of income, and if we put time into putting together really nice booths and really nice artwork, like it, the paycheck gets better and better from these. So my art director had a really good understanding of what I was doing on the side because he was doing the same thing. So that was really neat to kind of grow alongside like the Raging Ape guys doing the same thing. And then working together was really good as well. And then around 2013, 14, I remember this really pivotal moment of like 2013. It was January, and I was kind of doing the math of all the shows I had done this year and what I was making at my job. Like I was just kind of doing my accounting. Like here's what I spent to do these conventions. Here's what I brought back in. And
good for you, by the way, for doing that. Not a lot of people think to do that when they're starting out.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Well,
they'll just kind of do it. Oh, I'll just put this money in, then hey, look at this, and throw it back into the bank account, and just keep doing it and not pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so
yeah. And
it's important though.
Yeah, it's true, and that was me for the longest time, right? Like I just kind of like, it is what it is, and don't look at it too closely. And then that winter of 2013, I looked at it closely, and like I wasn't doing exact numbers, but I'm kind of like, okay, I made this here, this here, this here, this here, and that number was bigger than my annual salary at the video game company. Like, okay, so I made more at Comic-Cons than I did at my full-time job. What if I did more Comic-Cons and didn't have a full-time job? And so this kind of thought like hovered around my head all of 2013, and nobody had ever told me that I could just do my own thing full time. It was always, growing up, you do high school, and then you go to secondary education, and then you get a job.
Yep.
And you stick with that job, right? And that was
20, 30 years in a career.
Yeah.
Retire. That's your life.
So at no point had it really occurred to me that like I could start my own company and do my own thing. That was just never an option in my head until I kind of did that math. And so all of 2013, that was starting to kind of like circle around of like, okay, if I did this, what would I have to do? For like health insurance, and I have to get register a website and register GST with the government. And like, I was starting to kind of figure all those things out. I bought a couple like entrepreneurship books and stuff like that, and started to make that plan. And then in 2014, the company was doing another big shuffle. We had just finished. We'd done like the Lost Girl was a TV show.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar.
So we did the Lost Girl iOS game, and it was kind of like a hide and seek game. It was like a big painting of the bar from the show, and I would hide like all the, find the candlestick and find the apple and find this and find that. And so I was doing that. And that project was coming to a close, and all of our contracts were coming up as well. And so the boss handed me basically a contract saying like, sign this to be, to sign on for the next year, I think, kind of thing. And this was around the time that I was burning out a bit because I was working, I was doing all my Comic-Con stuff. I was really focusing on my own stuff. I was working a full-time job, and I was trying to take on illustration freelance as much as I could to kind of, just get out there more. Mm-hmm. And there was one project that I was asked to work on by the On Spec magazine. It's a Canadian writing magazine, and they released like this annual book with a bunch of short stories in it. It's a really cool book. If you're into writing, check out On Spec. And I had done a cover for them, and it worked really well together. And then they asked me to work on a second cover. And it was in the middle of, I was working on too many things. I had too many side projects, and this really cool cover illustration that they'd asked me to do, it went on. I wasn't kind of meeting deadlines, and they finally said, we can't wait on you anymore for this, so we're going to have to cancel this contract with you and go elsewhere. And that was kind of the final nail in the coffin of, why am I working a full-time job that isn't fulfilling as the stuff I'm doing on the side? And now I'm I'm letting people down because I'm trying to do too many things. And so, yeah, I put in I don't think I put in 2 weeks. I think I put in like a month's notice. Like at the end of March, I'm done. I will take the month and transition everything out because all my files had to be made ready for other people to deal with. And so I got to leave on really good terms with the video game company. And then shortly after that, there was a big ka-chunk again of people getting let go. So there was always that kind of lingering doubt in my mind, like, would I have been fired at that point anyways?
You got out at the right time.
I might have got out there on time.
Yep.
And I think it was actually my boss at the time was maybe a bit relieved because that was one less person he had to worry about keeping on or letting go. Again, it's such a volatile industry. But yeah, so in 2014, in May, I started chasing artwork as a company. I went down to the government building downtown and registered my company name. And I rented space on 240 McDermott, right across the street from where we are now. Because those 2 months that I was unemployed and working from home full time, I was very, very productive, but it was also a very unhealthy time of my life because I would wake up and my desk was right beside my desk, and I would paint for hours and hours and hours and then just go straight back to bed and rinse and repeat. And I didn't see the light of day enough and didn't get out of the house really at all. So my promise to myself is, if I ever started my own company, I'd have to like rent a space away from home to have that separation of work-life balance. So 2014, I started my own company in this small little studio space on McDermott, and it was ACI, which I think now is Creative Manitoba, and they might have rebranded again, but they had this kind of this workplace program that they were starting up where they had a bunch of cubicles and a couple of offices, and they were trying to entice people like me to rent space and kind of work together. So there was all these people working on different projects of all kinds of walks of life, and it was a great idea on paper. Nobody else was ever in there except for me. I had my own little office, and I was in there a lot, and I never saw any of the cubicles really used to any real degree.
Well, it's ahead of its time, because that's pretty common now.
Yes,
There's a lot of that kind of stuff happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is 20 years ago, or not quite 20 years ago, but it's still like, it's not. Yeah, I can imagine it's a tough sell.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm sure it's easier.
They were charging a little too much. Once I started to kind of look into other options, I realized, okay, they're asking a lot, and if this is like a government-funded program, like why aren't they trying to help us out more?
All visible objects are but as pasteboard masks. Some inscrutable yet reasoning thing puts forth the molding of their features. The white whale tasks me. He heaps me.
That lasted about a year and a half, 2 years I was there, but I really filled up my plate with conventions. This is where we're starting to get into like 20 to 25 events a year. My inventory is growing. I had printed Cassie and Tonk was my first book. I was getting into art books as well, and my paper stock was just starting to become a little unwieldy. And I'm in like a 300 square foot like little office, probably even smaller than that. So I knew I need to expand, or I need to start renting storage space, and I didn't really want to get into that. And so this was around the time that Gregory Kamichuk and I had started to run into each other more and more and more. And he was on the short list of people that I knew were kind of doing this at a professional level, right? They weren't just, throwing stuff on a table at Comic-Cons. They were actively doing illustration projects on the side and building a brand for themselves, and just seemed to be, it wasn't a hobby for him anymore. It was, yeah. And it's a small number of people that's even today, like it's hard to find people who, really want to take this all the way. So I went to a book launch of his. I forget what the book launch was, but at the book launch, I'm sitting in the crowd with all the people, and he said, at the end of this, we're all going to the round table. If you want to come. And I brought my portfolio because I wanted to pitch these guys and just kind of like see if I wanted like other professional artists to look at my work and see if these big shots like Gregory Kamichuk thought like I was on the right track.
Sorry, I shouldn't have laughed at that.
Yeah. Well, it was like he just seemed to know what he was doing, and I was still kind of starting out. And so I went to the round table afterwards, and we're all hanging out, and I was there with Mike Sanders and Gregory Kamichuk, and nobody else really showed up. And so I kind of pitched him like, hey, I'm thinking about moving into a bigger studio. I need more room. He at the time had studio space on Adelaide, and so I knew he had like a studio space as well he was sharing with another friends. Like, I don't know if you're like this would work at all, but I'm looking at getting a studio space, and like you're one of the people that I think we'd work well together, and it doesn't make sense for me to get up by myself. Like, what do you think? And then he kind of paused, and like he had just been talking with his wife Tara about wanting to maybe take a couple years off teaching and get into this full time. So I think I just kind of like hit the lottery of timing, finding another artist who was just kind of at that point in his career and personal life where he wanted to kind of do this full time as well. So we got this space where we are now, which is 1,000 square feet, so much, much bigger, and immediately filled it up with all our inventory. And this is where like I'm getting into like 35 shows a year and going to Australia and the UK and all over the States. And it's starting to, it's a lot of travel and a lot of conventions. And I found my people. I found all these other people that we're kind of having the same conversations of like, why are we taking on freelance? Why are we working for other people? These conventions are like a huge source of income, and people want the things that we do. They're not necessarily wanting, when people want to hire us to do their project, it's not quite as profitable as us just kind of doing our own thing. Mm-hmm. So I got to meet people all over the world, and we started having kind of that same conversation. Like, why are we working for other people? Why are we taking on freelance? And so over the next couple of years, it kind of came less and less about finding those big clients and finding those big projects, and more about what do you want to do as an artist? Because now you have this distribution method, you have this way to get it out there. And
built an audience.
Yeah, and started to build an audience. People, you go to the same Chicago show like year after year after year. By like year 3, 4, 5, people start to like recognize you and remember you, and that's starting to happen more and more. And then when you miss a year, you get all these messages like, hey, where were you this year? Like, we were looking for you. We were trying to find your booth. So it all kind of started to come together that I was doing the thing that people said, well, I don't know if it really was a job 10 years ago, but like now I'm illustrating exactly what I want full time. I have a way to make a living off it. I have I have an audience built up that is ready for it. So now it's like the burden of choice. I can kind of work on what I want, and I know there's a good, like a 99% chance I can make money on it, because I don't have to pay any other people. I don't have to spread the profit out. I can put in the money to have it made. I can bring it to a bunch of conventions, and even if it flops, my other stuff will perform well enough that it's not lost. You've got
kind of a safety net there with all your other material.
Yeah.
But you've got like Spark Chasers coming up, so that's your new project you're working on. We can talk about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked about it. So you look for a second, and you're like, what's going on now? So you now kind of focusing on more writing and storytelling as opposed to just prints and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So now I'm at the point in my career, and I think everybody kind of starts out this way, that I want to make my Lord of the Rings. I want to make my Star Wars. I want to do this big epic journey with, a bunch of heroes and a bunch of villains and a convoluted plot. And at the end, there is a world apocalyptic event. They have to everybody wants to make that story.
Yep.
But not many people are ready to make that their first book or their second book. And here I am, book 13. I'm finally ready to make that big epic. It's a lot of work, though. So this book is, I'm doing the script, I'm doing the writing, I'm doing the art, I'm doing the page layout, I'm doing the design. So these are all skills that I kind of got along the way. I can do the lettering and design because I was a graphic designer. I've been kind of like writing here and there, and I've worked with enough writers and done enough writing that I feel confident enough that I can accomplish that. I've made enough books that 250 pages isn't as daunting as it once was. But so the problem is now, like, it's a long project that's going to take a long time, a huge amount of work. So I have to I won't be able to make as many posters this year. I won't be able to do quite as many conventions, but I'm at the point where I have such a vast back catalog and so many other books and so many other projects that I can start to bring back all those, the prints from 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, bring those back, start bringing those to shows, and they're kind of new and exciting again. And I can kind of lean on past work while I hide away and make this new big project. So that's the only thing that's been kind of weighing on my mind is every convention that comes up, I want to have something new. I want to have new stuff this year. And I won't be able to have very much new stuff this year because this book project is so all-encompassing. But, it's really neat to have, like, that big of a purpose with a project, like to know this is what you need to put hundreds of hours of work into, and it's all gonna hopefully turn out. And I know that once it's done, I have a place to take it, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make my money back on it. Not to
you've
have
built
that
that up.
yes.
Yes, you've built that surety.
So I've built all that up. So that's like where I am, that I can take this kind of big long break to work on. I can disappear for a while and make something really big and epic, and it doesn't, derail my career, doesn't derail my income. I'm at the position where I can afford and I have the privilege to put hundreds of hours into a project, and that feels really lucky. And sometimes it feels selfish, and sometimes I'm like, should I just be like stopping and making fan art of like stuff I like that people are going to be expecting? But I think it's the time in my life where I need to, take a year or two and just work on this really big project. So
Absolutely.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds great. I think it's going to, I can't wait to see it. It's going to be a great project when it's finished. And of course you still have all your other work that people can see online and that kind of stuff. You've got your back catalog available on your website. Well, there you have it. Great origin story, Justin. You didn't get radioactive powers though. Where does the spider come in? No, I'm just joking. No, that's excellent. I didn't. There's a lot in there that I didn't know. I knew some of that I'd heard before, but quite a bit of that was new.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And I think usually at this point in the interview, it's like, what's next? Like, where do you want to go next?
Yeah.
And I think and Gregory would probably say along the same things. I've noticed since kind of getting into like being the Chasing Artwork company and doing my own thing, and realize doing my own thing is sustainable and people are wanting it. I don't look forward very much anymore because I don't need, like, when you make that 5-year plan, it's usually where do I want to be in 5 years? And I'm exactly where I want to be, doing exactly where I want to do. And I always kind of, once in a while pause and like think about how lucky I am to be in that position.
Did you catch the artwork, Justin?
Yeah,
You're not chasing it?
You can't catch it.
That's about it. This has been Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. I'm Dan Vadeboncoeur, encouraging all of you to join the fight and make comics.